Hey Coder, so in this video, I'm going to show you how to go and host your website cost effectively in AWS and have fine-grained control over everything about your website, how it builds, how it gets shown, how many of them get shown, how they get balanced, how many people are allowed to hit your website, how to stop people abusing and spamming your website, all sorts of things, right? And not only that, but you're going to do it very, very cost effectively. So I'm going to talk you through some tips and tricks as well on how to not only host more robustly and how to improve on what I show you here, but how to do it very cost effectively too. And I must tell you that when I was using Heroku and other services before, I was spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars more every month than I needed to had I just done this in the first place. Let's get into it. Now you'll see on my screen over here that I have an EC2 block, an AWS ECS block, and another block. So with AWS, you have a lot of hosting options, and I'm grouping them into three main buckets, although really that's probably unfair to AWS. There's so many ways you can skin this cat. So the way I'm going to be taking you through is using an EC2 instance to host your website. And the reason for that is you need to become familiar with how much traffic you're getting, etc., how the build process works and all of that stuff. If you understand all the detail of what we're going through here, it's going to make it so much easier when you use all these other processes to know what AWS is abstracting away for you, etc. The other thing that I want to say is it's very easy to get stuck into vendor lock-in. For example, CI/CD pipelines and all of these ways you can auto build when you publish something to Git and all of this fancy, exciting stuff. When I started doing all of that, it actually created more headaches for me as a solo developer. It might work better when you're working in teams, etc. But for me as a solo developer, I'm doing some very complex things sometimes. And there are some demanding applications that I need to make sure keep running and run the way I need them to. And I started off doing all these other things before I landed on just going with the simplest approach. Not only did it save me more money, but things worked a lot more robustly. I also think my website seems to be working faster, funnily enough. And I don't know why it's doing that, but it seems to be. And it also enables me to create more instances within my own control when I need to. So there's a lot of fancy stuff you can do with these other technologies. For example, if you want me to show you how to deploy a website with AWS ECS so that you can be using Docker a lot and having it auto scale your Docker containers and orchestrate those like Kubernetes would, just let me know in the comments. I will put that together for you. So the first thing you're going to need to do is just go and make sure you have an account with AWS. If you haven't got one, this is going to be a useless video for you. The second thing is over here at CodeRaiders, just go to this link I've put in the description here, coderaiders.com/yada, yada, yada, because what this is going to give you is the step-by-step walkthrough over here. And this is a free code package. There's a GitHub link over here. You can just go and copy and get going with it, right? So I've written up everything we're going to do, all of the commands, everything, tested it here in this documentation, and this video will be attached to this code package. So I'm going to walk through these steps so that you can actually see them working. And if something doesn't make sense to you in the documentation, you'll have the video to refer to. Right, let's get started. So head over to AWS and then just go here and type in EC2 and make sure you go to the EC2 area. Now you'll see instances running. Yours might say 0, mine says 1, because I have CodeRaiders actually, funnily enough, running here right now. So this very website that you're looking at right now, well, here it is on AWS, right? So this is actually where CodeRaiders is being hosted at the moment. Now we need to go and set up some security groups. I've already got them set up, but I'm going to show you how to do them. So go down here to security groups and go to create security group. Now, when you go to create a security group, you can call it whatever you like. I like to call it whatever it's going to do. In this case, we're going to allow SSH, access. So here we go, allow -SSH. I like to put -SG at the end of my security group sometimes, just so that I know it's a security group, and then, allows SSH for devs. Call it whatever you want. What is this doing? Well, you need to remember that we are just hosting a computer in the cloud. The only difference is it's going to have security and networking rules that aren't the same as your computer that you're probably watching this video on, for example. So that's important to know, because if something's not working, it's going to be a networking or security issue, right? Everything else pretty much works the same as though you're running your own computer. That's one of the big takeaways if you're not used to working with AWS. You're renting a computer, you're going to build the computer from scratch in terms of the software, but you need the networking and security set up. So let's go and add this rule over here, and I'm just going to go here and put SSH, and here allow it to all IP addresses here. So 0.000-0. That means any address can SSH into my machine if they have the right security credentials, etc. Then just go down here and go create security group. I'm not going to do that because I already have it set up. So I'm going to cancel it, but you need to hit create security group. Then let's go up here and create another one and call this one allow public internet access -SG if you want for security group, and allows public internet access. And go down here, add a rule, select HTTP as follows, and here use 0.000, and down here select HTTPS. So where are we? HTTP, HTTPS, and select 000, etc. And then just go here and create security group. Again, I've got this, so I'm not going to, but you need to, so hit create security group. Great. Now that we've got the security groups, you can see my two here, allow public internet access, allow SSH. Now that we've got those set up, and you can call these whatever you want, by the way, just make sure they make sense to you, we can attach them to the machine that we're about to go and rent from AWS, right? That's going to be our EC2 machine. Now head over to EC2 dashboard, click on instances running, mine says 1, and you'll come through to this page again. Now we're going to actually launch our EC2 instance. So click on launch instances, and let's just call this whatever your website is. So here you can go my website, EC2, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call mine as follows because my website is going to be for my name. I'm going to put up a Sean McDonough website. Code Raiders is already up, so I might as well build a website, or I've already built it. I'm going to be putting up my web application, which is called Sean McDonough, and I'm going to call that EC2. Why not? Now the machine we're going to use here is Ubuntu, and I'm using 22.04 LTS, which is the latest here. And in terms of architecture, up to you. I typically do actually use ARM. I've found some good deals on ARM architectures, but it really doesn't matter what you use over here. I recommend using x86 because most people actually do use x86 when they're building things on their personal laptops, etc. I use an M1 Mac, so I'm using ARM, and I just wanted to know that it would build the same as well. It really doesn't matter. I built things on an M1 Mac that work fine here on the x86. So that's what we're going to do here. Great. Now let's choose a machine. I'm going to select right now t2.medium, and I like to select something with decent amount of memory and CPU. So T2 medium is probably a lot more than I need. What I recommend to do is start with something and then scale it down. You might even be able to scale your site down to a free tier instance like this. It doesn't mean it's free forever, but you can host very, very cost effectively. And I'll talk more later on about how to actually host for a lot cheaper than what you're going to see priced in over here. Anyway, I'm going to choose T2.medium. And over here now, we need to select a key pair. It recommends you create one. I have got one created already. If you don't have one, you just go create a new key pair. We're not even going to use this. So I'm actually going to select proceed without a key pair, although I do recommend for you, you create one and you download the file it gives you. You don't need to use it. It's just in case you want to use it in the future. This is what will allow you to access the machine that you're renting from your local machine on your own terminal, right? On your own CLI. Great, now let's go down here. In terms of network, I've only got one VPC set up. You probably will also only have one if you're new to AWS. I've got other AWS accounts where I have other VPCs, and we don't need to worry too much about this. The one thing I did want to mention to you is there's something called subnets, right? So within where you're hosting this machine, you have these subnets, and you have public subnets and private subnets. If you want uber security for your website, you're going to want to host it on a private subnet. And I can link a video in the description that's very helpful. It shows you how to go and set those up. But for most use cases, and especially when you're just prototyping, this is more than good enough for most people. So let's continue with that. And over here, let's go and select an existing security group. Now you've created your security groups already. So down here, just go and select them. Mine's allow public internet access and allow SSH. If you don't have the SSH, you won't be able to connect to your machine. So just make sure you've done that and then go over here to launch instance. Great. Now let's go back to our EC2 and our instances running over here. And if I go and refresh this, you'll see in a minute, I could get rid of the instances running and then it would show everything. But if I refresh this in a minute, it's going to show the new instance. And there it is over here. So Sean McDonough, you can see here is the website, Sean McDonough-EC2, and yours could be called My Website, whatever you called it. But here it is now. So I like to just give this about 3 minutes to run just to get warmed up, have its coffee, whatever it needs to do. But let's select my website here because you'll notice I have a public IP address and I have a private IP address. If I go here to instance state and stop the instance, it will then mean when I start a new one, it will change the public IP address. Private one will remain the same. Now that's something that's usually quite important to note because you might have something pointing to the public IP address for whatever reason. You might have a very complex setup of some kind. So just bear that in mind. It's not going to matter for us because when we change this, what we're going to do is actually have a load balancer. I'm not going to do it in this video. I'm going to do it in the next video. But we're going to have a load balancer actually point to this machine. And if the IP address changes, it won't matter. You'll never have to do anything. It'll be fine. But it's just something worth noting because maybe you stop an instance, start it again, and you're testing, is the website working with this IP, but you don't realize the IP's changed. And you can spend hours being like, why isn't it working? And then you realize, oh, the IP changed. So that's just important to bear in mind. Now you'll notice this still says initializing. I'm going to give it another minute. Let's head over here to our instructions and just check where we are. Step 1, we've created the security group. Step 2, we've gone and created our machine instance over here. Now we're at step 3 where we want to connect to our instance and then do step 4, which is to install all the packages we need. So what I'm going to do now is go to my instances, select my instance. I've given it a lot of time. This will go green soon, but let's go here to actions, connect, and then just click connect again. Now, what I also want to do is just go back here a second, go back to EC2 and create another window here, instances, and I'm going to select this again. And in a minute, I'm going to come back and connect yet another instance. And the reason for that is there's a number of things I want to run in parallel while I'm testing this. And believe me when I tell you, I wish I had done it this way way earlier in my developing career because it would have saved me a lot of headaches. And let's go over here to the one we've already launched. And you'll see here when you connect to it, you have a CLI. This is now your machine. You are there. It tells you, the usage, etc. And let's just go and clear our terminal. So this is just like having a machine that you're setting up things for the first time, except we're doing it in Ubuntu, not Windows or Mac or whatever. We're using Ubuntu over here. So the first thing I'm going to do is go sudo apt update, because this is a good command to go and run. And that will go and download any packages it needs to for its update. Once that's done over there, I want to go and install Node.js. So here I'm going to sudo apt install Node.js. Now you don't need to install Node. You don't have to do it. I'm doing it because my application is built with Quick. Yours might be React. Same thing. You're going to need Node. If your application is built with Python, you're going to want to use Python. If it's Rust, you're going to want to download Rust. So you need to figure out whatever the commands are for Ubuntu. You can just Google it for installing those things. But here we're using JavaScript. Most of you who are launching a website have it in some JavaScript-based framework. And I also use Yarn and I also use TypeScript, etc. So these are two things I use often. So I've included them over here for my benefit as well as for yours. You don't have to install all of this, but we do. Once we've installed all of this, I'm actually then going to go and make sure we have the stable version of Node installed. And the reason for that is once upon a time, I was running a website here, didn't work very well. Well, it worked for months and then it stopped working. And then I had to go and figure out what was going on. And it was to do with some change with Node or some issue with the interface of Node. And what I realized was had I just hosted it here in the first place and looked at the errors that was coming up, I would have been able to fix it much sooner. But the takeaway for you is it was because I had a version of Node that no longer worked with the way that these Docker containers were being installed on my machine by AWS with ECS. And this was a real headache for me. So I've given you some commands here. I recommend you put them here as well, because probably they're going to save you some headaches in the future. Great, so that's all done. Let's go over here and go sudo apt install npm, because we've just installed Node, and run this as well. And then over here, I'm going to go and copy in yarn once that is done too. This one will take a fair while, so I'll pause the video here. All right, great, that's run. So now let's go and install yarn. Excellent. Now let's go over here and also install TypeScript node, so TS node. That's something I like to use if I'm working with Express. And now let's go and just run these commands here too, just for good measure. So I'm going to run that. I'm going to run this over here as well to install Node globally. And there we're going to set up a stable version of Node here on Ubuntu. And there it is, Node version 18.14.0. Here, if I go to node -- version, here you can see 18.14.10. Great, let's go and clear the terminal and head back over here. Now let's install Docker too, because we're going to use Docker for Nginx, which is going to forward any requests to the port that we want. So if you're running React on port 3000 or even Quick on port 3000 or 5173 or whatever you're running it on, we're going to need to be able to forward requests to it. And so we're going to use Docker for Nginx. I'm also going to use Docker for my application. So I'm going to do that as well. But first, I'm going to set up a React application before I go and Dockerize it so that you can see this working without Docker as well. Some of you might not want to use Docker. I actually do recommend using Docker, but you don't have to. So here, let's go sudo snap install Docker, and that's going to install Docker. While that's running, let's go and get the Docker version as well. So sudo docker version. Great, sudo docker version. And by the way, if you're not sure what the sudo means, this allows you to basically run commands as a super user. If you get security issue coming up or whatever when you are installing and building your application or whatever, it's probably because you're not using sudo. Right, let's go and clear our terminal. That all seems to be working. And let's go here to step 5, which is to build our application. Now, this is where you need a website, right? You need your whatever website from Git that you're using. This is where you need it. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm first just going to create a React app and get that working and show you it working. And then I'm going to go and come back here and basically go through all these steps. And the reason is because I'm actually installing a quick website that doesn't work well with Nginx unless I'm using Docker. So basically what I'm going to be doing is getting the quick website up and running using Docker as well, so that you can see the process with Docker. But before I do that, we're going to go and just create a React application as though you were cloning your own React application from GitHub or whatever. Quick, solid.js, Python, it doesn't matter. All I'm going to do is simulate that. So here I'm going to go npx create React app, and I know there's better commands to run than create React app, but that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to call this front end -delete because I'm going to remove it later. This is just now to show you. And let's go and proceed with that. But a cool takeaway for you here is to see that this is just a computer, right? So we can use GitHub, we can build our application just the same as we would on our own machine. And if you're hosting your app in Docker somewhere, you can go and run your app here from Docker. Like it's really, really useful to think of AWS EC2 hosting with that in mind. We're just doing all the same things we would on our own machine now. Excellent, that's all run. So now I'm going to hit ls and I'm going to go cd into my front end -delete because we're going to delete this in a minute. And let's just see here. Yep, there's all my packages. Let me just clear this, show them again. There's all my packages. So what I want to do now is, because all these packages are installed, I might as well just go npm run build. And if you were cloning your website from Git, you would first go npm install or npm ci or yarn or whatever it is to go and install your packages, and then you would run the build command. And again, if you're using Python or Rust, some other application, you would follow whatever that process is. Great. Now what we can do that's built is go npm run start. And you can see now it's starting our React application. Now I didn't get this from GitHub. I literally just created it now live, right? So starting the development server, and there you go. We can see it is now running on port 3000. Excellent. Now let's go over here and connect to a second instance like we set up to do earlier. Let's go and connect to that. So we still have the same EC2 instance, I should say, but we have a different session now. So here's the session where we have React running, and here is a different session. So here I'm just going to go and clear all of this right now. And this is the part where I'm going to actually go and run Nginx. So I'm going to skip this part here. I'm going to come back to doing it because right now I've got React pretending to do this for me. And I'm going to come over here to Nginx, right? So we're going to do that. And we don't need to change directory back because I'm already in the root directory. So you just want to make sure you're in the root directory. And what I want to do here is go and git clone this link that I've got here, right? So up here, I've got a link to Nginx with Docker. I'm going to copy that. And here I'm going to go git clone, bring in that and call it reverse proxy as follows. All right, I just retyped that again. I don't know, I think I typed it incorrectly before. So git clone this link here, reverse proxy, and let's have a look at what's inside. So here I've got my reverse proxy folder. Let's go into that, reverse proxy, and have a look at what's inside. So now I have a Docker file for it and an nginx.conf or for configuration file. So what I want to do here is now go into that file. So here I'm going to go sudo nginx, or sorry, sudo using nano nginx.conf. If you don't know what nano is, it's basically just a text editor. Think of it like your mini VS Code for Ubuntu. And we're going to sudo nano into that now. So here I am in that actual Nginx file. And if you followed the last series on Code Raiders, you'll be well versed as to what's going on here. But what you can see down here, if I scroll down, you can see I have basically a reverse proxy going on over here, which is quite interesting. And it's also got some rate limiting as well. So it's allowing 10 requests per second to come through on this website, and it's limiting people by IP, right? So you can't have people attacking your website very easily and all sorts of things like that. So this is very useful just to have built in. And down here, you can see we have anything from our domain being forwarded to this thing here that says front end server. If I scroll up here, here's my front end server. It's going to this IP address and port. Now this IP address, we now need to go and change because it's not for this machine. I'm going to show you how to do that. And if your application's running on a different port, this is where you're going to go and change the port, right? React right now is running, as we know here, on port 3000, right? So that's where it's running. Now, how do I know what IP address to go and use here? Well, I need to go and change this. It's my private IP address. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to get rid of all of this. And I'm going to go over here to my EC2 instances, select this one over here. And here is the IP address, the private one. I'm just going to copy that right over there. I'm going to go back here and paste that in. And there it is, right? So there is the private IP address that any request will be forwarded to. If you have another application running, and let's say it's your API, for example, you can uncomment this and do the same thing up here. For your backend, you can uncomment everything I've hidden here and have it also then forward request to a different application. And so if you have it moving to a different application, you can have your backend, your front end, everything I showed you in the last series. So I'm not going to go too much into this. If you're into this sort of thing, what's going on here, definitely check out Nginx in the last series we did when we were building our full stack SaaS application. Great, now I'm going to go Control X for exit, and then Shift and Y to save, and then enter. And if I go back into it here, you can see here it's updated that port number with this 63 over here, right? So I know it's saved, and then I'll just come out of it again there. Great. Now that we've gone and got that sorted out, let me go back over here to our documentation down here. We have gone and downloaded that. We've CD'd into it. We've edited this IP address over here. We followed everything basically. Now what we want to do is go and build this, right? We're going to go and Dockerize this because you would have noticed that if I go ls, there's a Docker file in here. That Docker file can now get built. So I'm going to go sudo docker build-t reverse proxy, and then here full stop. The full stop's important, and then no cache. No cache is just good to run. It's a good habit to run it, especially when you're running things with Docker here without a GUI interface. It just makes sense to use no cache. So just go and run this. It'll delete any record of any images to do with this build from before. So now that we've built an image, that image is now on our machine. We can run it whenever we want. It's on Docker and it can go and run. So what we can do now is go Docker and we can say run -p for port and map port 80 to port 80, because this is very important. Remember, when you set up your security group, HTTP was on port 80, right? So here we're mapping port 80 to port 80, and here we're going to say reverse proxy. Excellent. Right, that says there's a problem here. So it says got permission denied, and there is the problem because I didn't put sudo. So here we put sudo docker run, and there we go. So that is now running. And if I go here, my React is running. I can stop it. I can start it again. You see this window is still live. And that's important to note, by the way, that this is still live and running. And so what I'm going to do now is open this IP address over here. So here I can just go open address, and you should get this error, right? And the reason is because right now this is going to HTTPS. I need to change that to HTTP and hit enter. And there is my React application. Fantastic. That is really, really, really good news, because what that means is our website is running and working. We have Nginx protecting us from too many people trying to spam and hit our website with too many requests. And it is forwarding any request to port 3000, which is the port that our application runs on. If I was to try and put here port 3000, you'll notice that it just spins round and round and round. It's not actually running, by the way. This is just because it loaded before. It's not working. If I get rid of that 3000, now it's working. Now, if that didn't work for you, which is very, very common, by the way, expect to have headaches when you're going through this process, especially for the first time. If it didn't work for you, have a look down here. Try to read what's going on. It will give you an error. It will throw up an error to say, hey, there's a problem. Something didn't work, right? Your Nginx will feed back to you why it's not working, because this should all be running. And I did have that problem with Quick. And then when I Dockerized it, it all worked fine, which is what we're going to go and do now. So here I'm going to CD back a bit, and let's go in ls here. You can see I've got my front end delete. So I'm going to remove that. So rm-rf front end -delete, which is the folder I don't want. So that is now killing my React application. It's now gone. And now what I'm going to do is go and git clone. I'm going to paste in the actual URL for my website and then space front end after that URL. So I'm going to go and paste in my URL here and then this front end, and that will be my actual application. All right, excellent. I've done that. So if I hit ls, there we go. I have a folder called front end. So I can cd into front end as follows. And let's hit ls again. Now this is a quick application. So I've just downloaded this fresh from GitHub. So probably what I want to do now is create my environment variables. So let's scroll back up here. We're now going back to step 5 because I'd done this with React earlier just to show you creating an application from scratch. But here I've now cloned something from Git. And I've seeded into front end. So what I want to do now is sort out any environment variables. So here's where I'm going to go touch.env. And then I'm going to go sudo nano.env. And here's where I can paste in, for example, if I'm using Supabase, my Supabase URL, my Stripe, private key, whatever you're going to be doing, you can start doing it here. I don't actually have any environment variables for this website, so I'm not going to do it. But this is where you would go and do that. Excellent. And now what I want to do as well is make sure I'm installing all the packages. Now, I'm not going to use yarn here because this is quick. Actually, I'm going to use npm, but I would use npm ci, or if I'm using yarn, I would do yarn -- exact. I usually prefer to use yarn, by the way, but here I'm going to do npm ci for clean install, and that's going to install all my packages as follows. Okay, great. Now that's done. Now, because I'm running this through Docker, I didn't really have to do that, but it's just to show you if you're not doing it with Docker. But what I'm going to do now is go npm run build. Great, that's built. And then what I want to do now is go, npm run start. So when I go here, npm run start, there you go. You can see my quick application is running again on port 3000. Now, if I go back here, this is still running. If I go and refresh this, you'll see I get this 502 bad gateway. So it doesn't like my quick application. Nginx is not talking very nicely with my quick application for whatever reason. So what I'm actually going to go and do here is I'm rather going to go docker build t front end, just like we did with Nginx earlier, full stop -- no - cache. And I'm going to go and build that front end there. And again, that didn't work because I needed to go sudo. So here I'm going to go sudo and build it as follows. All right, great. That took about a minute to run, but that's built my Docker container. So now I can go sudo docker run, and this is now on port 3000. So here I can go port 3000 to port 3000 as follows, and that's called front end. Great. So now that is now running. You can see server starter, localhost 3000. Excellent. So let's go and hit enter here again. And here's my website. Now, this website I put up really more than anything just for fun. It's, Sean McDonough. It'll be seanmcdonough.com because I needed to think of another domain to do this video for you. But here's our video that we did on Quick for the crash introduction and some of the technologies I've worked with and I love, and some of the applications, etc., that I've been working on. So this is the website here that I'm putting up, but you will have your own website, right, that you are putting up. And here you can see the Quick favicon is up here as well. Brilliant. So this is really good because here I can see on this terminal, Nginx is running and working, and on this terminal, my Quick application is working. So fantastic. Now, if this didn't work for you, it should say why. It should tell you why here, and it should tell you why over here. But we can stop it now. I'm going to assume that you're dealing with any or troubleshooting any problems you've had so far. So I'm going to refresh this here. And then this one here as well, I'm actually just going to stop it here and refresh it too, right? So this should no longer be working. If I go and hit enter now on my public IP, it is no longer working. And remember here to make sure that you're using HTTP like such, and it should not be working, right? Great. Now that we've seen everything working when we run it manually, we now need to automate all this stuff. It's all building, it's all working absolutely fine, but how do we automate it? Well, we're going to go here. We need to be back in our root directory over here, and we're going to create a system control service, right? So we're going to go and create a service that starts on boot, restarts if it fails, because sometimes your web server will fail. It needs to automatically restart and all of that good stuff. And this is how we do it here. So we're going to start with our Nginx reverse proxy. So I'm going to go and copy this here. I'm going to go to my EC2 and I'm going to go and paste this like follows. And then what I'm going to do is go back here to the text, copy all of this exactly like I've laid it out for you here and paste it in. And this just tells the service what we want the name to be or the description, how to restart always, restart every 5 seconds. And here, most importantly, is the command that it's running, right? So sudo docker run port 8080 reverse proxy, right? So that is what this is going to run. And maybe I shouldn't do docker run. I could do start or whatever it's going to be. This is what I'm going to run though. So here I'm going to go and exit this and hit shift and Y, and that has saved that file. Now nothing's happening yet, so I need to go down. Now I'm going to first enable this reverse proxy service that we set up, and I do it by running this command sudo system control enable reverse proxy. Let me clear my screen so you can see a bit better. And that means that whenever this machine reboots, it will start this Nginx service. And I can start the service now by going sudo system control start reverse proxy. And if I didn't do this, it shouldn't actually run on reboot, I don't think. But I haven't tested that. But anyway, you need to start the service. And you can also stop the service, by the way. So here I could also go stop, and that will stop it from working. But let's not do that. Let's go back to start and start it working. Great. And then here you can see whether it's working correctly by going to status as follows. And here, this is what you should see, active and running. And over here, down here is a very useful command. And this is to actually see the printout of the terminal for it. So if I do that, you can see here session opened, etc. If this was our quick application, you'd see something like running on localhost, whatever, which you'll actually see shortly. Excellent, right? Let's go and clear that. Now that we've got our Nginx running automatically right now, All I really need to do is set up the same thing for my front end, right? Now over here, I've got it written here for you to be npm prefix home Ubuntu front end start, etc. But we've actually run ours with Docker. So I'm going to use the same command here. But if you weren't using Docker, this is what you would use. And if you're using Yarn, you would use this over here. I'll put that in the documentation right there for you. So let's go over here and get our instance running. And I need to go and copy all of this as I had it over here. Excellent. And then what I'm going to do here is just go and get rid of all of this here, which there's a quick way to, there we go, jump to the end. And what I'm going to do is paste in the exact same command as I had pretty much over here for Nginx. So here I want, because I'm running Docker, I want to go and run this Docker port 80, etc. Except here we're going to do it on port 3000 because that's what my app runs on. So let me go and do that here. So port 3000, map to port 3000. And if you wanted to, you could actually then also create port 3001, port 3002, port 3003. You could have 3 instances of your application working here. And on Nginx, have it round robin to each instance. You just add the same thing in Nginx where we put the private IP in the port. You just add the same thing again and change the port number. This is one of the big benefits of using Docker, by the way. So here we're going to say front end, right? So this is the front end service, and that's how it's going to run. So here we can go and exit out of that and save it. And let's go here now and enable our front end. So system control, sudo system control, enable front end. Let me just clear so you can see what's going on. And let's go and start our front end over here as well. And something I like to do too is just reload the daemon. So I'm just going to go and reload this. It's just something when I'm setting up, for example, an Ethereum client or something like that, that comes in quite useful. All right, my terminal got a bit jammed there, so I'm just going to restart it over here. All right, let's go and have a look. Excellent. Now, when I go over here and hit enter, here's my website, right? Everything is running by itself. If I go here and go to my instance state and reboot my instance, right? Let's go and restart it, my Sean McDonough instance. Let's go and see what happens. If I go and hit enter, you'll see I've rebooted it. There's no computer running right now, so everything's down. But then I can hit enter again. And if I keep doing it in a second, you'll see that it all starts up completely on its own, which is brilliant. So I'm just going to keep doing that. And there we go. You can see it's starting to think now. The machine is having its coffee. It's now getting ready to rock and roll. And in a second, you'll actually see that that website is back up and running. And there you go. I just needed to go and make sure that this was HTTP, not HTTPS. And here is my website up and running. Now, this is not good enough because you can see we have not secure over here. We don't want to launch a website that is not secure. It needs to have HTTPS. Now, you can do that with Nginx and all sorts of funky things, but we're actually going to use the Amazon Web Services load balancing feature. That does cost money. It's not free. It's definitely not very expensive in my opinion, but that is what I'm going to show you how to go and set up in the next video. I'm going to show you how to get this to be HTTPS, and I'm going to show you how to have your domain connected here so that a user's not seeing this funky IP address number. They're going to actually see whatever your website.com domain is, in this case, SeanMcDonough.com, right? So that's what we're going to do, just like we did here with Code Raiders, same process. So Coder, I hope you found this very, very helpful. I know it seems a bit overwhelming if a lot of this is new to you, but I honestly recommend that you take the time to understand each of the steps of what's going on here, because honestly, when you're using Vercel, Heroku, or whatever, they're doing all these build processes in the back end for you, in the background for you. If you're doing it on AWS, you can seriously control the cost. Now, one of the things I mentioned as well, I would take you through is how to go and spend a lot less on your hosting. Well, it's no secret. You just come down here to reserved instances. And when you're doing this for the first time, you will need to pay upfront or it won't work for you, but you can purchase reserved instances. So if you go and find a machine that matches the exact machine you've decided to use, then AWS will not charge you for that other machine that you're already using, right? So for example, if I have a T2 medium machine I'm running and I purchase prepaid a machine for 12 months that is that same type, then I'll prepay it. I won't pay for the type I'm already running. And it is about 70% cheaper on average. It's a heck of a lot cheaper. You can also do spot requests as well, spot instances if your website doesn't need to be up, if you're just testing things out or whatever. There's so many ways you can save money. Now, honestly speaking, I've looked around, I've shopped around a lot. AWS for me has been the cheapest by far. It saved me hundreds and hundreds of dollars, which has sometimes meant the difference between a business running and it not running, right? So when you're just getting started as well, that can be very important. Nothing is going to be as cheap as serverless if you have no traffic going to your website. But this is one of those things where I feel it's important to have full control in what I'm doing, particularly if I have a fairly complex application. And one of the cool things you can do now, once you've got this instance going, is you can now go and create multiple instances, multiple EC2 instances, and have traffic round robin to all of them, or have traffic round robin within one, i.e. if one fails, in the next video I'm going to show you, if something failed, your load balancer will automatically look for the one that's working, etc. And the cool thing about ECS, by the way, is it does a lot of auto scaling. So it will create and drop off instances as you have an increase in demand or a drop in demand, etc. But again, if you're just starting out, you don't even really know what your traffic stats are yet, etc. You don't really know what to anticipate or how much memory you're using, etc. Then all of this can be really, really difficult. If you do it like I've shown you here, you have fine-grained control over absolutely everything. And if something fails, you can troubleshoot it. You can go into your terminal and run it manually. You can go and stop the system control front end and reverse proxy, run them manually again, see what's going on, and become familiar with your applications and where they're failing, etc. And then you can look at containerizing more or using containerized services, etc., etc. So honestly, I know that this can be a big headache for a lot of people, and this video even might have felt very, very long for you, but I'm hoping that the hours and even weeks or if not months of time in the future that it might save you was worth the time. Now, just a quick one on code raiders. So for those of you who followed the last series, I have gone and changed code raiders to work with Next.js. That's right, it's now on React. But there is a reason for that, because the vision here is to enable programmers like yourself to go and sell their code. And so what I can do over here is go and create a package, a code package, etc. And when I'm going, just like this one, editing that code package, I wanted to be able to have some kind of text editor over here that would be really good. And I did find one that's really, really good, etc. But it works with React. The other thing is that when using Quick, my build started failing when my application started becoming quite complex. And I needed to get this out. Mainly because I have a lot of customers from crypto wizards who need and use code that I develop. And for the wizards, anyone who's a member of crypto wizards, which is not something you're interested in, obviously, but this is a tool for traders, right? So the traders who are using this, some of them are tech heads as well. They absolutely love the development side, etc. They want access to the code and they want to be able to walk through it or have a video talking them through it without having a whole Udemy course. And so I just launched the first one of those over here as well. So there's a lot going on with code raiders. I need it to work. It's working for existing paying customers. And so I can't afford to have something break down. Again, that's why I use Next.js. In the future, as things get developed for Quick, I am going to migrate to Quick. I absolutely love using it. So just know that as well. In the next video, we're going to go and set up our load balancer here in AWS. I'll see you over there.